So let's dive into the story of a city that, by all accounts, had everything. It was a paradise on earth, blessed with unimaginable gifts. And yet, it was completely wiped off the map for a sin so new, so unique, it had never been seen before in human history. This is the story of Sodom, the people of Lot. Wow, that quote really sets the stage, doesn't it? It gets right to the heart of the problem. Wrongdoing in Sodom wasn't something people did in the shadows, hidden away in shame. No, it was a public spectacle. It was something to be celebrated, a core part of their culture. So, how did a place get to that point? All right, so let's set the scene. Our story starts in the city of Sodom. Geographically, it's somewhere between modern-day Jordan and Palestine. And let me tell you, this place was absolutely lavished with nature's best. I mean, just try to picture it. A land so incredibly fertile that the idea of hunger or scarcity was completely foreign. We're talking date palms practically overflowing with fruit, gardens that were green and vibrant year-round, and fresh, sweet water from the springs. It was the very picture of prosperity. But as the city's wealth just kept growing and growing, something inside the people, it started to go very, very wrong. This is where things get completely turned on their head. Sin wasn't just an action anymore. It became a tradition they were proud of. They would actually hold public meetings to celebrate their misdeeds. They openly mocked God's laws. The very roads that brought them all their wealth, they'd use them to harass and rob travelers. And they took pride, actual pride, in committing acts that were entirely new to the human experience. The Valley of Blessings had become a field of sin. So, into this world of defiant excess, God sends a messenger, a man with the unbelievably difficult task of trying to guide these people back from the brink, the Prophet Lut. So, who was Prophet Lut? Well, for starters, he was the nephew of the great prophet Abraham. And here's a key detail. He was the very first person to believe in his uncle's message. So he's bound to him by blood, but also by faith. He was sent by divine command directly to the people of Sodom with one mission: guidance. Can you just imagine that moment? Lot arrives in this dazzling city. He's surrounded by all this evidence of God's favor: beautiful buildings, busy markets, green fields everywhere. But as he starts to walk among the people, he feels this chill, a deep tremor in his soul, because he can see that behind this beautiful, shiny facade, there's a deep and horrifying corruption. And this wasn't a quick visit. For a long, long time, Prophet Lot tried to reach his people. Day in and day out, he'd stand in their streets, in their markets, just pleading with them to change their ways. And what did he get in return? Nothing but arrogance, nothing but ridicule. You can really see the massive gap between their worldviews in their arguments. Lot would plead with them, "Oh, my people, fear God. What you're doing is against nature. Please, leave this path." And they just fire back, "This body is ours. We have control over it. Who are you to stop us?" He would argue that real strength, the thing that makes a nation great, is faith, not tall walls. And they just laugh at him. "We built these walls with our own two hands. What even is this faith you keep talking about?" And finally, their mockery just hits its absolute peak. They didn't just ignore his warnings anymore. They started to challenge him, to dare him. "Bring it on," they said. "Bring on this punishment you keep threatening us with." You see, to them, the whole idea of divine justice was just an empty story, a threat with no real power behind it. And you can just feel the heartbreak in this moment. This prayer is a massive turning point. After years of rejection, just completely exhausted and heartbroken, Prophet Lot turns away from the people and turns toward his Lord. And notice the change. He's not praying for their guidance anymore. He's praying for help against them. The time for warnings was officially over. A divine decision was about to be made. So how was that prayer answered? Not with a voice from the sky or a clap of thunder. No, the response came with the quiet arrival of visitors. These were God's messengers, angels disguised as men, and they were there to carry out a final, terrible mission. And these angels had a very specific itinerary. First, they stop at the home of Prophet Abraham, Lot's uncle. They give him the wonderful news that he's going to have a son, Isaac. But then, the mood shifts completely. They reveal their true mission, the destruction of Sodom. And even Abraham's pleas for mercy couldn't change a judgment that was already set in stone. So when the angels, disguised as handsome young men, get to Lot's house, word spreads like wildfire. And in one final, damning display of just how corrupt they were, the men of the city swarm his house. They start beating on the door, demanding that he send out his guests so they could abuse them. Inside, as Lot is desperately pleading with this mob,
The guests step in. They reveal their true angelic nature and power, assuring him, "Do not fear, they cannot harm you." And then they give him his final, urgent instructions. Get your family, leave this city in the dead of night, and no matter what you hear, no matter what happens, do not look back.
So picture this. Lot and his daughters are fleeing into the darkness, not daring to look behind them. And as they run, the sentence that had been written in the heavens is finally carried out. The destruction of Sodom begins. So what about all that stuff they were so proud of? All their power, those high walls they boasted about building with their own hands, the wealth they'd hoarded? In that moment, did any of it matter? No, not at all. As the sun began to rise, a terrifying storm erupted. But this was no ordinary storm. The ground shook so violently that buildings just collapsed, houses overturned, and then came a rain of baked clay stones from the sky. And get this, each stone was said to be marked for a specific person. There was absolutely no escape. But that wasn't even the end of it. The final act, it's almost unimaginable. The entire city, its streets, its buildings, its people, the whole thing was literally lifted up from the face of the earth, turned completely upside down, and slammed back down again. A total, complete inversion. An entire civilization gone in an instant. The city was gone. The people were gone. The very landscape was changed forever. But the story itself, it wasn't meant to disappear. It was meant to become what's called an ibrat, a powerful, enduring lesson to be thought about for all time. And that's really the key takeaway here, isn't it? While every single physical trace of Sodom was annihilated, the memory of what happened, and more importantly, why it happened, was intentionally preserved. This wasn't just a punishment. It was meant to be a permanent sign, a warning for all future generations. And that really just leaves us with one final question to think about. In our own world, with all its changing values and norms, what is the timeless moral here? Is this a story about obedience? Is it about the consequences of arrogance? Or is it about where we draw the line between personal freedom and the kind of decay that can unravel a whole society? What is the enduring lesson from the story of the people of Lot?